Hello everyone. Today in this video we are going to discuss few certificated related questions related to financial closing. So the first one is, when adding a bank to the bank directory, which field is required? So when adding a bank to the bank directory, a country field is required. You must define the country, bank code and bank name when defining a new bank. The details for company code are maintained on the house bank and bank account level. The opening date and currency are maintained per bank account. So we should have the country. So the details for the company code are maintained on the house bank and bank account level. The opening date and currency are maintained per bank account. Okay. On which level do you maintain the bank directory? Definitely at client level. Banks are defined on the client level and are assigned to the country. Since you may have many company codes, customers and suppliers using the same banks, it makes sense that these are defined at the highest level. If you pay attention part, this question can be answered at least partially by the previous question. When writing items for the certification, we try to not have cases like these where an answer for one question is implied by a different question. So the next question is, what is defined in the what is defined in the bank account connectivity path settings? Bank account connectivity path settings. Payment approvers for workflows, business partner assigned to the bank, house bank account ID details, relevant profit center and segment. So what is defined in the bank account connectivity path settings? So bank account connectivity path setting, payment approvers for workflows, business partner assigned to the bank, house bank account ID details. So the connectivity path is where you define the connection between a bank account and the house bank. So the business partner is defined in the bank details. The payment approvers are defined in the bank account signatory details, and the profit center and segment can be assigned in the account additional details. The house bank is the one which is connected to the bank account. So here we can see they have given clear explanation for each and every point provided as options. When creating a bank as a business partner, what roles are assigned to the business partner by default? There are three correct answers. So when creating a bank as a business partner, what roles are assigned to the business partner by default? So as it is a bank, definitely it will not be customer or supplier, and definitely it will be the three: general, financial services and bank. The correct answers are the bank role C, D and E, the financial services role and the general role. The general role is always assigned. You can't create a business partner without it. For the others, remember that we can't create fake answer options. So the obvious ones are the actual correct ones here. When creating a bank, you don't assign a customer or supplier reconciliation account at any point. So the system won't be able to create the customer or supplier role in the business partner master record. So next question is, what are the differences between holding and parking documents? So there are two correct answers. So what are the difference between holding and parking the document? So the held document doesn't have a document number assigned. The held document can be incomplete. The parked document can trigger workflow processes. The parked document is considered for financial statements. So the parked document can trigger workflow process. In held document we can't do that. Held documents don't receive a document number, though the users assign an identifier to be able to retrieve them. So even the parked document can be incomplete. The held document does not have, so only document parking is integrated with the SAP business workflow. On the other hand, both parked and held documents can be saved incomplete, and neither held nor parked documents are included in financial statements. Okay. On which level is the document parking workflow variant assigned? We'll assign it at the company code level. You assign the workflow variant to each company code. You can view the assignment also in the global settings for the company code, that is in OBY6. Can you differentiate the document parking workflow process on the business partner level? How can you differentiate the document parking workflow process on the business partner level? Assign different workflow release group, assign different payment method, assign different business partner groupings, assign different responsible organizational unit, assign different workflow release group. You assign the workflow release group in the company code detailed screens of the business partner roles for financial accounting, customers and suppliers. This way you can control the release strategy separately for different customers and suppliers in your system. So true or false question. Sub workflows define the number of release levels in the document parking workflow process. Yes, true. The sub workflow is where you define the special characteristics of the workflow, including the number of release levels. You can use the sub workflow, for example, to differentiate the approvers based on different amounts. What options does a processor for general journal entry submitted for verification have? So he has the option to approve, to reject or submit, B, D and E. Which values can you define as prerequisites for triggering the journal entry verification workflow? So what are the prerequisites? Which values can you define as prerequisites for triggering? So account group, cost center and source company code. The correct answers are account group, source company code and cost center. In addition, you can also use the threshold value. Source company code, okay, if this document is related to this company code, we can trigger the workflow and account group and cost center. So in addition, we can also use the threshold value. In many cases in which there are more than 3 correct options, the easiest ones are not chosen to be included in the certification. Here value is very obvious. Prerequisite. The profit center option is a good distractor because it mirrors the cost center, which is a correct answer. The target company code just plays with the source or target option. It isn't as strong a distractor though. So why would you choose to implement the document parking workflow for journal entry verification compared to the general journal entry verification process? Why would you choose to implement the document parking workflow for journal entry verification compared to the general journal entry verification process? Oh, okay. So why do you choose this or that? Because you do not use SAP Fiori. You need to define two-level verification. You are running SAP S/4HANA 1610. You do not know how to configure the new functionality. So we never say we don't know that. And we have to select the best option from these uh, provided answers. So the first option is like you do not use SAP Fiori. The general journal entry verification functionality requires SAP Fiori. Although you should really never have to work on an SAP S/4HANA system without SAP Fiori, there are a number of customers who have chosen this path. The delivered workflow process is a single step, but you can create your own processes with two verification levels. The new functionality was introduced with SAP S/4HANA 1709. So if you are working in a 1610 system, it won't be available. Finally, you should never use a lack of knowledge for not doing something. You are responsible for figuring it out. The general journal entry verification functionality requires SAP Fiori. What are the basic definitions you make for validations? There are three correct answers. Basic definitions you make for validation. So validation, we need to set the prerequisite and check and provide the error message. The prerequisites must be fulfilled for the system to perform the checks. If the validation is true, the message defined is raised. If the check isn't confirmed, rules and sets can be used to define the prerequisite and check details. At which levels can validations and substitutions for financial accounting be defined? So we can define at line item level, complete document and header level. A, D and E. True or false? A single substitution step can be defined to substitute multiple fields in a document. True. Although most times a step fulfills a single substitution prerequisite, you can change multiple fields with a single step. This way you can trigger changes even if they aren't direct field dependencies defined through assignments in the master records. Multi-sets can be created if they combine data from basic sets that all group the same characteristic. Multi-sets can be created if they combine data from basic sets that all group the same characteristic. Here it says false. Multi-sets combine any kind of basic sets independent of the underlying characteristics. The statement here fits the description of a single set, which indeed combines basic sets defined for the same attribute. What is the main motivation for creating rules for substitution and validations? Simpler definition tools, reuse in multiple steps, not bound by Boolean logic, additional fields available. So reuse in multiple steps. You can use rules in multiple steps of a validation or substitution. So you can speed up the time required to create them by reusing them. The tools, fields and logic are the same as those available when maintaining prerequisite and check data. What are the steps in the customizing of data archiving? Define archiving storage locations, perform cross-object customizing, define table partitions, activate data aging objects, perform object-specific customizing. So what are the steps in customizing of data archiving? So first we need to define archiving storage locations and perform cross-object customizing and perform object-specific customizing. The sequence of customizing step is to define the archiving storage locations, perform cross-object customizing and finally customize the object-specific settings. The table partitioning and aging object activation steps are part of the activation process for data aging. So these are the customizing steps and those are the activation steps. What is the reason for performing data archiving? To have few to control hardware required to protect data from being let the backup data on a separate. To control hardware required by performing data archiving, you can maintain stable hardware requirements because the database is kept at a constant size. With data archiving, you can have shorter downtime cycles but not the fewer ones. Data is never lost. Data archiving has no effect on this. And data archiving is not a data backup process. True or false? If you can delete a general ledger account for a company code, you can also remove it from the chart of accounts. False. You need to delete a general ledger account from all company codes to be able to delete it from the chart of accounts as well. In general, deleting anything in the SAP S/4HANA system which acts as a system of record is only performed after many dependency and consistency checks. Now true or false question. You execute data aging separately for each data aging object. You execute data aging separately for each data aging object. False. You create object groups that can have multiple aging objects combined for sequential processing. This makes it easier and more efficient to administrate the aging run, and you can be sure you are not forgetting aging objects. Which of the following is the difference between data aging and data archiving? Data aging allows you to retrieve the aged data for analysis. Data aging frees up memory space. Data archiving removes data from the database. Data archiving has advanced logging capabilities. Is a difference between data aging and data archiving. So data aging allows you to retrieve the aged data for analysis. Data aging frees up memory space. Data archiving removes data from the database. Data archiving has advanced logging capabilities. The archiving process physically removes data from the database, whereas the data aging moves it to a historical partition. In both cases, the data is retrievable, albeit not as easily or swiftly for the archived data. Both have positive effect on used memory, and both offer powerful log tools to check the results of the runs. On which levels can you maintain useful life for documents of a company code in the context of data aging? On which levels can you maintain useful life for documents of a company code in the context of data aging? Is at document type and account type. The aging customizing allows you to control the useful life per company code and account type. So you can define a different retention period for general ledger accounting documents compared to, for example, asset accounting documents. You can also configure the useful life per company code and document. So with this, I have completed the certification related questions in all areas like in SAP S/4HANA, Fiori, General Ledger Accounting, Accounts Receivable and Accounts Payable, Asset Accounting, and Financial Closing. So with this, I have covered all the FI certificated related questions and its explanations. I hope you all enjoyed by watching these videos. I will try to upload these documents in the description if I am able to. Please check in the description box to get this attachment. Thank you so much for watching these videos, and I wish everyone to gain more knowledge from these videos and successfully complete their certifications and also be successful in their interviews. Thank you so much.